Video game box art sucks. Sometimes. This video idea isn't exactly original, but I still want to give my 2 cents on the topic. Video game covers serve the same purpose as things like movie posters, album covers, and YouTube thumbnails. It's a person's first impression of the piece of media they're looking at, and every game cover needs to strike a balance between branding and creativity with its art direction. Because a game cover that's in your face with a guy holding a gun will let the consumer know more about the game, but at the cost of a good-looking game cover. While more simple game covers don't give away as much but are more visually appealing. Of course, there is a balance with these two types of game covers, and it is possible to have both at the same time. But very few video games are actually able to do this. So most of the time you either have a more subtle cover that doesn't give too much away and gambles on the chance that the consumer will want to research what they're purchasing, or a much more in-your-face and boring cover that plays it more safe for the sake of telling the customer exactly what the game's about. Usually the most common way to achieve this is stick the main character on the front, and that's about it. Believe it or not, this type of cover can be creative when done right, but a lot of the time it's just the main character on the front with a boring background. Minecraft has a similar way of handling box art by just showing you the things you'll be seeing and doing the most, like interacting with mobs and exploring the world. And I don't really see anything wrong with this game's box art, specifically with the PS4 version, because it actually looks pretty interesting and shows what the game has to offer in a unique way. The Batman Arkham games, while being amazing games, have some of my least favorite cover art for a video game. And I think it just boils down to how they all kinda just look the same. Just a picture of Batman looking angry with a plain white or gray background. The Arkham Knight cover looks better since there's at least more going on in the background, but the rest all just feel the same. Five Nights at Freddy's covers are a mixed bag for me. On one hand, they do follow the same formula as a lot of other box art, but at the same time, some of the covers do this but are still also able to make them unique. For example, the Nintendo Switch version of the first game is simple yet effective. The overall frame isn't too crowded, and the lighting and use of animatronic close-up shot make it a great video game cover. But then we have the original cover art for the game, which is basically the Nintendo Switch version without any of the creativity that made it stand out. Then we take a look at the second game, which has the same problem, where one cover has good lighting while not giving too much away. Then you have the version most people associate with the game, which doesn't still give too much away but is way less interesting. And again, the same problem goes for Five Nights at Freddy's 3 cover art, where you have one good cover and one boring cover. And Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is no different. With this version being simple and cryptic, it doesn't give too much away about the game but still shows enough to get the player interested. Then there's this version of the cover, which has the exact same problems as the one before. Terraria's box art is more unique in how it presents itself, with the main console version showing off everything you need to know about the game while still being interesting. It shows off that you'll be collecting armor and weapons, building houses, talking to NPCs, and fighting bosses. And the box art itself, like the game, is extremely colorful. You also have versions for the Nintendo Wii U and 3DS that don't show off as much but are still interesting. Red Dead Redemption 2 is probably one of the only video game covers where I'm actually okay with just the classic dude holding a gun because of its art style. The frame isn't just black and white, and it's more alive and more colorful. Far Cry games are known for two main things: their open worlds and their villains. So just stick the villains on the front of the box and call it a day. They also do this because the main characters are never interesting enough to be on the front themselves. Sports games have a similar issue where every year they just slap whoever is one of the top players in the league at the time. For example, the NBA 2K series, you have Paul George in 2K17, Kyrie Irving in 2K18, Kevin Durant in 2K15, Steph Curry when he was taking over in 2K16, then more recently Anthony Davis in 2K20, Damian Lillard in 2K21, and Luka in 2K22. Just the same box art every year, just with a different player. I get that it works and it's safe, but the 2K series is big enough where they can afford to take a risk with their box art even just for 1 year. CSGO's box art isn't really all that bad. It's not just one person looking at the screen with a white background, and it still lets the consumer know what the game is about. Cuphead's box art doesn't need to be good because of how unique the game already is, but the box art works pretty well because of its simplicity. Obviously, it's just two characters looking at the screen with a bright yellow background, but it doesn't need to be anything else because of how good the art direction is, and it shows that it's a simple game as well. Mario games are another good example of when having your main character be the main focus can be a good thing given the rest of the cover is visually interesting. The original Super Mario Bros. Box art is great for this exact reason. The background isn't too cluttered or complicated, and the colors used to help everything stand out. The exact same thing can be said for classic 3D Mario games like Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxies 1 and 2. But then there are other Mario games with this style that just don't work out as well, regardless of how good the actual game is. Some Mario games just have bland and boring covers even if the games are really good. Maybe because of too many things being in the frame and background, or nothing standing out visually enough. Rainbow Six Siege's box art is extremely effective in almost every way it needs to be. It shows off that it's a team-based game, and it shows how one team is offense-based and one is defense-based. It also visually looks good because of the way of the different lighting used on the two sides of the cover. But out of all of the game franchises out there and individual games as well, I think the franchise that has the absolute worst cover art is Call of Duty. Completely disregarding the quality of the actual games, I don't really like the box art, because they all just look too similar. Don't get me wrong, it obviously works because they keep using this format, but it just seems like the same thing each time with a guy holding a gun. Most of the time you can't see their face and nothing really stands out. I think the main reason why I don't like these covers so much is because of how desaturated and bland the covers look. Everything looks like it has no life, and they probably do this intentionally to make them all feel like they're a part of the same franchise, but it just makes the box art look worse. Star Wars games, on the other hand, have some of my absolute favorite video game covers of all time. Star Wars Dark Forces box art is just a few stormtroopers in the middle of a battle, and that's all you need to know and be shown about the game. Just from the cover, you know that you're going to be shooting a lot of bad guys. The Celebration edition of EA's Star Wars Battlefront 2 is also pretty good, giving off the vibe and feeling that you're just one of the many soldiers going out into war. Some of the older box art for Star Wars games look more like movie posters, just with more saturation, and that's probably why I like them so much. Republic Commando's cover art has a great way of showing that you're going to be the leader of a great elite group of clones. The original Star Wars Battlefront 2 had a cover that had two main signs being divided by a clone, light side versus dark side. The cover art shown shows that the entire game is about the battle of good versus evil. The Revenge of the Sith game is basically just a shot from the movie, and it looks awesome. The original Slenderman game, known as Slenderman The 8 Pages, is just the title of the game. Not much going on visually, not too complicated, but it gets the job done. Slender The Arrival does away with this so you know exactly what the focus of the game is. This guy. Resident Evil 4 has a couple different covers. This one you're seeing is unique, has color, and makes you want to learn more about the game. Then the version most people know about is just a guy holding a gun looking angry. The first one is just so much better and unique. Spider-Man games have also had a bit of a decline in video game box art recently, because while the recent game covers aren't bad, they just aren't nearly as good as the games that came before them. Take the two more recent Spider-Man games, Spider-Man PS4 and Spider-Man Miles Morales. Both good and simple covers, right? I even remember walking into GameStop when the first Spider-Man PS4 game released and instantly getting excited because I liked the box art. There's nothing really wrong with them. Main character with a bright, colorful background that matches the costume. Well, some of the older Spider-Man games just have more going for them when it comes to their box art. Take Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. Good game for sure, but take a look at how the box art shows just enough to tell you who you'll be playing as and while still being creative. Or take an older game like Spider-Man Maximum Carnage. Just look at how bright and colorful the background and cover is. This cover shows off the main villain, but at the same time is such a great piece of art for its use of just one single color. Nearly every single GTA game shows off their games with box art that both shows off the main cast of characters and with a rare cartoon aesthetic used. It's different, it's unique, and it works. Prey is a game about one guy trying to piece together what happened to him and the rest of the people on a giant space station. And because most of the time you'll be playing this game with no other humans around, it makes sense to why the box art perfectly captures the feeling of isolation. Just one guy walking on a long, empty path. The Doom series has great box art for the most part, because it shows the Doom guy right in the middle of the action. Again, like many other cover arts, showing off exactly what you'll be doing when playing the game. The only Doom box art I don't like is Doom 2016. Alright, I've been rambling on for a while and probably repeated myself way too many times, so I'll try and summarize my thoughts real quick. Video game box art has become stale in recent years due to things like everything blending in too much with the background, boring shots with character PNGs, extremely bland and desaturated uses of colors in box art, along with the overall frame being too cluttered and complicated. Sure, there's always going to be that more simple format with the main character on screen for a cover, which is fine, but if you're going to do that, just make it more unique with bright colors, better lighting, and unique angles for the character models to be shot from. And if you don't want to do that, make something more subtle and cryptic. It doesn't need to show off every single part of the game, it just needs to make the people interested in what you're selling. Alright, that's gonna be it for me today. Before I go, I'm just gonna do some shameless self-promotion real quick. I have a Twitter account that I sometimes use that I'm trying to get to 50 followers, so a follow on there would be appreciated. Same thing goes for my Instagram. I'm trying to get that to 100 followers, so once again, a follow would definitely be appreciated on there as well. Also, I have a Discord server that I sometimes go on. Apart from that, thank you so much for watching if you're still sticking around, subscribe if you want, and I'll see you later.